Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Laurentian Valley Council for Tuesday, June the 16th. We start off with the Lord's Prayer. Anyone wishes to join us may, and please remove your ball caps, and thank you. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, the power, and the glory, forever and ever. Amen. Thank you. Dean, call to order, please.
Mover and a seconder, please.
Keith and Brian.
Moved by Reeve Watt, second by Councillor Ugly, that the regular council meeting of June 16th, 2026 be called to order at 5:30.
All in favor? Carried. Roll call, Dean, please.
Mayor Bennett.
Present.
Reeve Watt.
Present.
Councillor Gauthier.
Present.
Councillor Hewitt. Councillor Ugly.
Present.
Councillor King.
Present.
Councillor Wren.
Present.
All members present except for Councillor Hewitt.
Thank you. Confirmation of the agenda, Alan and Betty.
Moved by Councillor Wren, second by Councillor King, that the agenda of the regular council meeting of June 16th, 2026 be approved as presented.
All in favor? Carried. Declaration of peculiar interest, seeing none. Minutes and notes, approval of May 19th regular council meeting minutes. Keith and Jennifer.
Moved by Councillor Watt, second by Councillor Gauthier, that the minutes of the regular council meeting held May 19th, 2026 be approved as presented.
All in favor? Carried. Motion for approval of June 2nd council and committee meeting minutes. Brian and Alan.
Moved by Councillor Ugly, second by Councillor Wren, that the minutes of council and committee meeting held June 2nd, 2026 be accepted by council, and that resolutions from that committee become resolutions of council.
All in favor? Carried. Okay, my pleasure to hand out the Laurentian Valley Outstanding Youth Awards. I'll explain first the explanation behind and the reasoning for each of the students receiving their awards. The Laurentian Valley Outstanding Youth Award recognizes students who make a positive impact in their school and community across 5 areas: community contribution, personal courage, school leadership, young athlete, and arts and literature. Community contribution honors students who demonstrate exceptional service through volunteer work for the benefit of the municipality and its citizens. Personal courage recognizes those who lead by example and maintain high ethical standards. School leadership highlights involvement in student council or school clubs that strengthen school life and community spirit. The young athlete category celebrates students who show skill, dedication, sportsmanship, and class under pressure. And arts and literature recognizes those who enrich others through creativity and expression in areas such as music, dance, drama, visual arts, and writing. I'd like to call upon each student, and when I call your name up, to please come to the front, and I just have a few words that were given to us on each student. So the first student is Gracie Mishaw from Bishop Smith.
Also might add, just when we're done, if you wouldn't mind staying, we'll take a group picture at the end, okay? Just so you don't escape.
Come on up. I guess I have to stay near the mic.
Yeah.
So Grace is a dedicated student leader, athlete, and community volunteer. Over the past 4 years, she has contributed more than 375 hours of service, supporting minor sports, teams, local theater, fundraisers, and elementary schools. As president of the Student Athletic Council, Gracie has helped strengthen her school community while also excelling in hockey and softball. Gracie is known for her kindness, resilience, and leadership, making her a positive role model who consistently impacts her school and community in meaningful ways. Congratulations.
Yeah, maybe let's just take an individual one first. Okay, let's do an individual one.
You can come up front too.
Yeah, if you want to come
Yeah.
closer, it's up to you guys here.
Okay.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Push it out there next time.
Our next student is Katie Self from Bishop Smith.
They're up here, I guess. It's Kate. It's Kate.
Kate, sorry about that, I called you Katie, is a driven student leader, athlete, volunteer, and musician who has made a lasting impact on her school community. She has exceeded her required volunteer hours through service such as scorekeeping, supporting school functions, and volunteering at the LV Four Seasons Trail Halloween at Trail event. Through her involvement in student council, volunteer work, athletics, and music, Kate consistently leads by example. Kate is recognized for her resilience, strong work ethic, and positive attitude in and out of school. She has overcome challenges while balancing school, work, and extracurricular activities. She plays a key role in organizing school events such as dances, assemblies, and other seasonal activities. Through her contributions, leadership, and perseverance, Kate has proven she is an exemplary role model. Congratulations. Congratulations again. Ian Summers from Equinox. Ian is an outstanding young leader whose contributions to school and community consistently inspire and benefit others. She demonstrates exceptional community spirit by organizing weekly Dungeons and Dragons sessions for children at BGC and volunteering at community events with her creativity through balloon sculpturing. Ian leads by example, demonstrating responsibility and initiative in everything, from helping keep classrooms organized to mentoring younger students in drama club. As a dedicated member of the drama club through school, Ian has helped lead activities and co-wrote a play that will be performed next year. Through her leadership, creativity, and commitments to others, she serves as a positive role model for her peers. Just gonna leave that aside. Okay. Congrats. Thank you. Malaya Condron from Equinox. Malaya is a devoted student leader who has made meaningful contributions to both her school and community. Through her volunteer work with Camp Sorrel, Miramichi Lodge, local sports, and student council, she has consistently demonstrated a commitment to helping others and creating a positive impact. As a certified lifeguard, Malaya has shown remarkable courage and responsibility in emergency situations. She is also an athlete participating in basketball, volleyball, and track and field while pursuing her passion for literature, writing, and the arts. Malaya also served on her student council through high school. Her leadership, service, and determination make her a very strong role model. Congratulations. Do you want to come up? Congrats.
Thank you.
Okay, there you go. work out here. Quinty Jackson, Falls High School. Quinty is a dedicated student who contributes to his school and community through service, leadership, and a willingness to step outside his comfort zone. He helped maintain and groom the Forestry Nordic ski trails, including preparing them for IASA, and mentored young karate students while earning his black belt. You can stay for the evening in case you get in trouble. Through a co-op placement in the physical education department, he stepped outside his comfort zone and developed strong leadership skills while helping teach grade 9 class. As a dedicated athlete, Quincy earned his black belt in karate and achieved a top IASA placement in Nordic skiing through years of hard work and commitment. His involvement in sports taught him discipline, perseverance, and confidence, making him a positive role model on and off the field of play. Congratulations. We have Raya Blah, did I pronounce that right? Raya? Raya Blah, Fellows High School. Raya is a dedicated leader who contributes to her community through her church, volunteer work, and school activities. She serves as a Sunday school teacher, manages church social media and live streams, leads public relations for the Pembroke Wheels of the Valley Car Club, and is president of the Young Knowledge Seekers while participating in numerous school dubs and arts program. Raya has been involved in figure skating since childhood and now coaches young skaters while continuing to compete herself. Her commitment has earned her both the Bonnie Cochran Award and the Gold Achievers Award. Through music, graphic design, and performance, she continues to share her creativity with others. Congratulations. Congrats. Brady Neville from Jean Louisois. Well, I'll tell you about Brady anyways. Brady is a positive and dependable member of a school and community who demonstrates leadership, teamwork, and responsibility in a variety of settings. He has volunteered at the Fellows High School Sports Camp and supported volleyball and badminton tournaments by assisting with supervision, setup, and organization. Brady has participated in several sport teams, which he leads by example, encourages teammates, and helps create an inclusive and supportive environment both in athletics and the classroom. Brady consistently shows strong sportsmanship by treating teammates, opponents, coaches, and officials with respect. He is known for his positive attitude, sense of humor, and willingness to support others through challenges. Outside of sport, he enjoys music and literature, which motivated him in both schoolwork and team settings, which further reflects his positive character. So certainly we'll get a picture of the whole group in a moment. I just want to congratulate on behalf of council to all the students graduating this year, and we give you the very best for your future endeavorments and furthering in school. And as I tell students each year, that you're more than welcome to come back and find employment in the Laurentian Valley. Congratulations. Okay, so students want to come up for a group picture? breathe in here, guys. Lots of photos.
Paparazzi again?
Yeah.
Paparazzi's getting you.
Okay, congrats again. So you're more, you can stay if you wish for the evening. We got about a 3-hour council meeting, or you can leave now. Thanks for coming out, everyone.
Bye. See ya. I don't know if he's here yet. Is Watson online? Yep, he's coming in Zoom. Hey? Well, I don't know who we have.
Oh, okay.
I'm not sure if it's not what you think.
Sorry? Oh,
Byron.
Byron. Yeah. Thanks,
His
gentlemen.
grandparents. Oh, no.
Okay, so we'll move on to our second delegation, Watson Associates, for our Laurentian Valley Development Charges Study Update. And I believe Byron is coming online very soon. There we are. Hi, Brian, we can see you. Can you see us?
Yes, I can, Your Worship.
Good evening. We'll let you take the show.
Perfect. Well, thank you very much. I'm assuming I'm allowed to share my screen. Yes, I am.
Sure. Laurie, in the meantime, do you want to give an update as to what we're doing here, like just so council's aware, just with regards to development charges? Well, you can do it from your thing, whatever. Yeah. Sorry, Byron, we're just gonna get Laurie to introduce the kinda, we didn't give
Okay.
any background, so we'll just give it a second.
Yes, so tonight, we have Watson Associates with us, who are the consultants hired to
Yeah.
do our,
Still not working.
sorry.
Well, let's pull Annie's over there. No.
Hello?
No.
Is that okay? Okay, yes, just a quick update for council. So we do have Watson Associates here tonight to provide a presentation to council in the progress with our development charges study review. Previously, we had a development charge bylaw in place that was under the regime where every 5 years we had to do an update, and because it would expire. We did have, with changes to the Development Charges Act, there was an extension that was added that we dealt with an amendment last year, and Watson's has been undertaking, in accordance with the Development Charges Act, our updated study in accordance with the most current guidelines out with the province. And what you'll have tonight will be a presentation, and Byron will kind of walk you through the different stages, and to provide council with a bit of an overview before we go to the next stage of public consultation with a proposed bylaw and background study, and what will be presented tonight will provide you with maximum eligible charges that they have come up with, but council does have some discretion and decisions moving forward with how that would look, either going to the public or prior to passage.
Okay, Byron, it's,
Perfect. All right. Well, thank you, Laurie, for that. And just want to confirm everyone is able to see my screen.
Not yet, Byron, we just have you, unfortunately.
Oh.
Well, unfortunately, that didn't come out right, sorry.
see you later.
I get that.
Yeah, not that we don't want to see you, it's just that we don't have your screen as you're asking.
Yep. Is that working now?
No, not yet.
It says on.
Well, that must be that mic.
What was
Okay, no, we still don't have it, Byron, there's no sharing. Now, do we have it online? We can put it on the other screen? I don't know, it might be hard for him to walk through that, but. Yeah, we're not seeing his shared screen. Was that just a council pack, though? Maybe it's on yours, Laurie? What if you put your camera up?
There you go.
Yeah, it does say I'm sharing my screen, so.
Okay. Yeah, when it works. We're just looking on our end here, Byron, to see if it's,
Yep, no, absolutely.
So we have a cottage in the ocean for 4 nights. And then we're going to travel around with Nova Scotia, Skinner's Pond. Well, we're going to PI first, and then we're going to come back and go through Nova Scotia. We'll do the cabin.
are you just gonna be, what you sharing, Byron, is it just your presentation? Is that what you were hoping to share?
That's correct.
Okay, let's just see here, I think we have it.
Well, we all have it on our iPads.
Yeah, I guess we can probably. Yeah, okay, so
Okay.
we'll put it up here and we'll try and follow. You go ahead and we'll try and follow. We all have it in front of us, but we're just not seeing, so maybe you can identify, when you're changing slides, just say we're moving to the next slide and then we'll know where we're at. All right, sorry about that.
Absolutely.
Not sure why that's not working. Okay,
I do see, I believe, Miss Dennis is sharing her screen right now.
yeah, I don't,
Yeah.
The screen's not working very good, though. His voice is off.
hey?
There's a time delay.
Okay, we have it up now on our main, screen, so fortunately, you'll just have to tell us when you're changing pages or what page
Okay.
you're on. Sorry
Nope,
about
that's okay. Not the first time I've done something like this. Hopefully this is okay with yourself and the rest of the public. But obviously, with respect to the title page, I mean, I think we can skip that. I mean, Laurie did provide an introduction that this is a development charge background study review. So if we just go to the next page, which is the agenda, which on the bottom should say page 1. Sorry, I'm just bringing it up on my screen here. So, as mentioned, today's presentation will circle around the progress report of what has transpired to date with respect to the development charge background study. So I'll talk a bit about the progress and the timelines. And then as mentioned as well, there's been a number of changes to the Development Charges Act over the last really 18 months. So we'll talk about a brief overview just to provide council with an understanding of what's changed with the landscape of the legislation and how that affects you. Now, a lot of the items we have taken care of and incorporated as part of the calculations and the policy review. However, there are items that, there will be ongoing items that the Treasury Department will now have to adhere to, in addition to treasurer statements, guidelines of how to report to the ministry, etc. So we'll ensure that we walk staff through all of those items to make sure that you're compliant as you move through your development charge process. We do have some proposed policies for council's consideration that we are looking for input later on with respect to how your bylaw will be essentially put together. And then going through the draft growth forecast, service standards, and the capital sheets, and essentially the draft rates that go along with it. Now, I would like to preface that a lot of this information is in its draft form right now. We are still working with staff to really fine tune some assumptions with respect to projects. And keep in mind, we're also working with your neighbors in the city of Pembroke to look at any projects that may have that collaborative treatment, especially when it comes to certain projects. Now, keep in mind that we are looking. This presentation is heavily weighted towards the municipal services, so that's your roads, public works, etc. Water and wastewater services will be assessed at a later date. We are still waiting on information, from the city and how that affects you as a township, but that's something that will be coming subsequent to this presentation. So if we go to the next slide, you should see an overview of the process and timelines. So as you can see here, we did start the process with the municipality back in July of last year. Since that time, we've had a number of engagement points, collecting the data, going through all of the meetings with staff in the departments, and ultimately undertaking some of the calculations as well as the policy work, which again will be presented today for your review. Subsequent to this meeting, we will be going back to staff just to fine tune again some assumptions, and based on the feedback that we may hear this evening, again, may impact some of the policy changes as well that we would put forth as part of that final background study. Now, we are estimating to have that final background study released, shortly within the next month or two, and then looking to get the mandatory public meeting and council's consideration of the bylaw. Hopefully by Q4 of this year, or at least having your new bylaw in place by the beginning of 2027. So that way we'll be in line with the building season before the spring of next year. So if we go to the next page, this is where I just want to provide you a bit of an overview with respect to what development charges are. Now, for council that have been, around as part of the previous development charge background study, you'll know that, really development charges are meant to recover for growth-related capital costs with respect to residential and non-residential growth within a municipality. And the key word there is, capital. So we can't include any salaries or any operating costs, but it must be growth-driven and, again, on the capital side. Now, these capital costs are in addition to what you would typically require a developer to construct as part of a subdivision. So, when a new development is coming to town, they would be responsible for the internal roads, water mains, street lights, parks, etc. But development charges are really meant to pay for all the broader work. So anything outside of it, creating collector roads, arterial roads, really that capacity generator that would assist with that development, but really more on a broader scale. And DCs, they're not new. They've been around since lot levies back in the Planning Act, back in the early 50s. So municipalities, you are allowed to have a development charge bylaw to recover for growth-related works. It's not mandatory because you have to go through a study process in order to instill a bylaw, but it is something that you are allowed to do under the Development Charges Act. So if we go to the next slide, you'll see here it's called the Municipal Financial Planning Framework. And this just provides a bit of an overview of how we go about with the calculations. So at the very high level, 30,000-foot level, we have to look at the growth and development within the municipality. And this is where we would look at, your official plan. We look at yours relative to the counties. And we take a look at, any other planning documents or anything that may signify or at least signal, where growth would occur within the township. From there, once we determine the amount and type of growth, we then take a look at studies such as your master plan, capital budgets, staff reports, etc., to determine the type of capital that is planned over the next, foreseeable future within the growth forecasts that would provide for infrastructure to support that growth and development. So this is where we again go through and identify all of the capital that could enable and provide for those new homes and businesses. Excuse me. In terms of once we have that information, then really it's a matter of putting it all together into a calculation, into a model to determine what those development charges would be in order to fund that growth via those infrastructure works. Next slide. Just with this one here, a bit of a triangle based on the relationship between the needs to service growth versus funding. So what I'd like to essentially point out to council and the rest of and the public and staff is as you grow, you can see the top part here is you would need to service these new users, the new residents and businesses to come to town. There's going to be infrastructure works that are required in order to accommodate them, whether that's upgrading a road, adding a new park, putting fire services, etc. So where there's growth, there's infrastructure that's required. And if you don't have development charges, which is on the bottom left-hand side of this, then really if you still need to, construct that infrastructure or purchase that, piece of capital, then really your only recourse to be able to fund that is through property taxes, water and wastewater rates, existing reserve funds, maybe you'll be lucky with some grant funding, user fees, but really it's coming from the existing pool of revenues that you generate. So development charges are meant to offset that. So that way you don't have to, increase, let's say, your tax levy by a certain percent, just so that you can put money away in order to build that new piece of infrastructure. And that's kind of the balancing act that municipalities are facing when having a service growth. Are you using development charges, or are you, maybe discounting that, but then having to rely on existing sources of funding through, your existing ratepayers and taxpayers. So then going into the next slide, again, just to provide you a bit of an overview of how DCs are calculated. So this is a bit more on a simplistic term. So really, as I mentioned earlier, we have to take a look at all the costs of infrastructure that would be required to accommodate growth. And as simple as this graphic looks, we take that dollar amount and we divide it by the residential and non-residential growth within a municipality. That math essentially generates a development charge, whether it's on a per unit basis for residential growth or on a per square foot basis for non-residential growth. So when we do have the cost, we do have to separate it between res and non-res, and then we divide it by the appropriate growth forecast to determine that rate on a per unit or per square foot basis. So in terms of the next slide, so these are the DC eligible services that are now allowed as per the Development Charges Act. So you can see we're down to about 19 services. You can see housing services was removed back in 2020 under Bill 23. But of these 19 services, you can see the ones in teal. These are the ones that we are considering as part of your development charge background study. Now, keep in mind the three above, the water, wastewater, and storm. These ones will be highlighted at a future time, just because we are still working with the city of Pembroke to determine what those final capital costs will be, especially on the water and wastewater side. So for now, what you're going to see later on in terms of the calculations really focus on the services related to a highway, which is your roads, bridges, public works, facilities, fleet, and equipment. We have fire protection, parks and recreation, and growth studies. So any studies required in order to enable growth within the municipality. Could be official plans, master plans, etc. So those are all items that we have included into the calculations. Now, in terms of what we need, oops, I lost my slide here. In terms of the legislation that has occurred, really over the last year, there have been a number of bills that came into effect after we started the development charge process. So you can see here, one of the main ones right now is Bill 17. The biggest factor for this bill is that they are now allowing the payment of development charges at occupancy. And that may not sound like a big change, but historically, development charges, especially on the res and non-res side, it was payable and collected at the time of building permit. So now with this change where residential developments now pay at occupancy, there's now a cash flow item that municipalities need to essentially navigate through. So if you had building permits, let's say, a building permit today, well, occupancy may not take place until obviously shovels are in the ground, you build the home, and then, you pass the key to the homeowner. And that could take, a year, it could take 2 years, maybe even 3 years. So that time horizon is a key factor where you won't be collecting those dollars until, again, that later date. So you may have to now look at interim financing to pay for works if you're not getting the money up front as you used to. There's been some changes as well to interest on installment payments. So, and it may apply to you to some respect, but rental housing and institutional developments, when they were paid, they were allowed to pay their DCs over 6 installments, over 5 years. Well, those installment payments had interest to them. So a bit of recovery of your opportunity costs for not getting the payments immediately. Well, the bill effectively removed those interest payments as well. So they're allowed to pay the DCs over an extended period of time, and you can't collect any more than what was the principal amount that was agreed upon, during the building permit stage. However, with these changes, the province did allow for these residential institutional developments to be able to pay their DCs ahead of time, so in advance of, let's say, the occupancy dates or the building permits, without having to enter into an agreement with the municipality. So historically, you would actually have to enter into an agreement via section 27 of the Act to then state, hey, I'd like to pay my DCs in advance of when I'm supposed to. Great, you sign it and away you go. Well, now they're allowed to pay it if they so choose, to be able to pay at an earlier date. But again, this is something that the developer would have to enact because they would be allowed to pay at occupancy. So it is up to them to decide whether they would like to, sign into the payment, an earlier payment. And then prior to November 3rd, there were a number of other provisions that took into effect. Again, long-term care homes were fully exempt from DCs. When you do have any site plan or zoning bylaw applications, the DCs are frozen for a period of 18 months, and they pull a building permit within that time frame. Well, the Act then changed it so that whatever the rates are that's lower, whether it's your current rates or the rates that were frozen, they would then pay the lower of the two. So again, there's a number of changes that we are working with the township staff just to monitor in order to ensure that you are conforming with the rules. Now, if we go to the next slide, you'll see here that this is, again, the changes to the legislation, but it's now with respect to Bill 60, the Fighting Delays and Building Faster Act. So this took into effect on November 27th of last year, and it just provided a number of new estimation rules, different ways of classifying capital costs, and then new reporting requirements for the Treasury Department. So these are all items that we are including as part of your background study. And as I said, it's just more legislative changes that have occurred in a short period of time. The next slide, Bill 98, as you would see in front of your screens. This is the Building Homes and Improving Transportation Infrastructure Act. So it was proposed as of June 2nd, 2026. A number of items here are still waiting royal assent, so they're not in effect yet. But once it does come into effect, there are new exemptions for nonprofit retirement homes being fully exempt from DCs. There's now standardized reporting that needs to be undertaken, parkland dedication requirements, site plan reform, and I think the biggest one that everyone's talking, the talk of the town, so to speak, is this provincial funding program. where the province and the federal government launched an $8.8 billion development charge reduction program. Again, you may have heard it. It became public on June 1st, and municipalities essentially had 2.5 weeks to put applications through. I believe they close in about 3 days at 10 a.m. And essentially, it's to provide some type of transfer payment to municipalities that are willing to reduce their DCs anywhere by 30 to 50%. But there's a number of eligibility criteria to that. And I know municipalities have been monitoring to see how this would benefit you, or perhaps even tie your hands, because you do have to commit to certain timelines and to be able to build projects within a certain again that time horizon. So there are a number of items and caveats that come with this program, and I know there's a lot of municipalities again are just racing against the clock to put an application through. And then lastly, in terms of policies, the next slide you'll see is the discretionary exemptions. So DCs, they're not like water and wastewater rates. It's not full cost recovery of your expenditures. DCs are meant to hopefully recover perhaps 60 or 70% of the total costs, growth-related costs that are put forth. And the reason for that difference between 70% to 100% is a function of these exemptions and discounts that you must provide as a municipality. So, within the municipal realm, you have to provide discounts for, industrial developments, intensification, ADUs or additional dwelling units. There's also discounts, with respect to rental housing, depending on the type of build. A 1-bedroom gets a 15% discount on DCs. A 3-bedroom gets a 25% discount. So there's a number of discounts that you must adhere to by the Act. But in addition to that, there's also discretionary exemptions that council and local municipalities can adopt. And you can see here these exemptions, you can reduce the DCs in whole or in part. So maybe perhaps you want to reduce the non-residential or maybe just industrial. You could phase in your DCs over time. Maybe you're increasing at a higher rate than you imagined, and you'd like to then phase in that increase over maybe a period of 2 to 3 years. And there's also these what's called redevelopment credits. So this isn't specific within the Act, but it was part of case law, where if a house, let's say, was demolished, you should be allowed to replace that house, let's say within 5 years, without having to pay a DC, right? Basically reinstalling what was there historically. Likewise, maybe perhaps it was a very large property and you want to tear down that single family home and maybe put 5 townhouses. Well, if that single family home was a $10,000 of a DC and you want to put 5 townhomes that are worth, let's say, $5,000, then the payable would be 5 times 5, 5 townhomes and $5,000. So that's $25,000. But because you're demolishing a $10,000 DC eligible home, then the net payable from that property should only be 15, right? So the payable of the 5 townhomes less what was there existing. So that's how the credits would work mechanically. Now, keep in mind that any discretionary exemptions or discounts that you do provide, in addition to the mandatory ones, all of them have to be funded from non-DC sources, right? They are a discretionary exemption that you need to put those monies back into the reserve funds to be able to pay for the infrastructure you identified. And just to give you a short example, let's assume we had a project that was 100% growth related and it was $1 million. And $900,000 was supposed to come from the residential side. 100,000 was supposed to come from the non-residential side. Well, in the perfect world, as development progresses, you would collect that $1 million to be able to pay for that asset. However, if you decide to, let's say, exempt non-residential, so that 100,000, well, that's fine. That means as you move forward with development, you're only collecting 900,000. But if you don't fund that 100,000 that you've exempted, well, the project that you have to build is still $1 million. So you've only collected 900,000. So you still have to figure out, well, where's that other 100,000 going to come from? Because we've chosen not to collect from the one sector, which in this example would be the non-residential side. So this is where when you look at funding exemptions, you have to take a look at what is the impact of actually funding the infrastructure program when you're not getting the revenues to be able to fund it, but you still are on the hook, or at least committing to construct these assets. So, with respect to this slide, just to finish it off, some common discretionary exemptions for council's consideration, which we can include as part of perhaps a draft bylaw. As I said, the more common ones we see are, industrial, bona fide farms, places of worship, hospitals, maybe a CIP area, downtown infill, or any other ones that you could think of as well that you would like. But as I mentioned, keep in mind any exemptions you add do need to be funded from non-DC sources. So if we go to the next slide, again, just for council's review, just keep in mind that the province also released another set of exemptions that aims to provide affordable housing within the province. Now, with respect to the affordable housing, it must meet a certain criteria, and the definition is the rent or the purchase of the home has to cost less than 30% of the 60th percentile of income within the municipality. Sounds like a mouthful. Luckily, you don't have to calculate this. The province does. So what does that mean? If you have a house that comes to the municipality, let's say a single family home, it has to cost less than $403,400 for it to be considered affordable, and then they don't pay a DC. And you can see on the bottom right-hand side of this slide, a semi-detached would be $342, a townhouse is $369, and an apartment is $261,000. And then above it, it provides the affordable monthly rents. So if you have a rental housing unit, if it's, again, a studio or bachelor, if the rent is less than $780, it doesn't pay a DC. And then you can see all the way up to a 3+ bedroom if it's less than $1,830 per month. Now, keep in mind, these affordable housing exemptions, they are mandatory. So the moment a development can demonstrate that they are affordable, you can't charge them a DC. However, the rules are also that if they do demonstrate they are affordable and you provide the DC exemption, you now have to draft a 25-year agreement with said party to ensure that it remains affordable. And every year that this legislation, every year that this bulletin gets updated, you have to double check to make sure that the rent, or if it was sold, that it still remained affordable through that 25-year period. The moment it does not, then that agreement essentially allows you to charge DCs again to those properties. So you have to monitor this over an extended period of time. So if we go to the next slide, and again, these ones I'll just go through a bit brief. They will be noted within the background study. But essentially, this slide here just talks about the local service policy. So part of the legislation, as well as what we include in the background study, is we draw the line in the sand as to what would be considered a DC project versus what would be a project that the developer should build as part of their responsibility, right? So again, anything that's internal roads to their subdivision, streetlights, sidewalks that are part of their subdivision, that truly should be their costs. Anything that's more broader where the community will benefit, especially for the new homes, then that would be on the DC side. So if we go to the next slide, now we're getting into the actual calculations. And this slide that you're seeing right now is called the growth forecast overview. So based on our growth forecast and our work with not only the county information, but on the applications that we've seen so far through the township, we are looking at a 10-year growth forecast. And based on the figures that we've been provided, it does appear that you are looking to grow by roughly 570 homes, or that translates to about 1,006 people over this 10-year period. Now, that's on the residential side. On the non-residential side, we are estimating roughly 307,000 square feet of non-residential employment, and that 317,000 would potentially house about 345 new employees for the municipality. So these are the numbers that we are using for the development charge calculations. Now, in terms of the next tab, the next slide, this is just to show you the draft calculations, which we call a service standard ceiling I won't bore you with the gory details, but essentially you have four different categories. You have your roads, public works, fire, and parks and rec. And if you go to the very right-hand side, you'll see there's a column says maximum by service. These are the dollar amounts that we cannot surpass if we were to include any capital costs into your development charges. So, I'll just use one example. Let's say Parks and Recreation, it says 2.7 million. So whatever the township can provide me $5 million worth of capital, the calculations only allow for the collection of 2.7 million. So these are calculations just for your review. Now, in the next tab, just provides a bit of assumptions and the key drivers for the capital program. We did look at, again, master plans, your Parks and Rec master plan, transportation master plan, active transportation plans, your capital budgets, as well as discussions with staff on the best case and best use of infrastructure and how to service growth. So if we do go into the next slide, you'll see here that this is now the draft capital program by service. Again, this is at a high level. I do have all of the, I believe I have all of the individual capital sheets appended to this presentation. So if you have any specific questions, they're there for your review. But for now, I just want to provide you at least an overview of what we're including. So you can see in terms of the four different categories, excluding water and wastewater, we have about just under $80 million of capital costs, so $79.4 million. Now, we do have a number of items that are considered post-period benefit. So this is growth related, but because your growth forecast is only over a 10-year period, these costs would then be picked up into your next bylaw when your growth has materialized, or the growth forecast reflects that higher level of service that we'd be providing. So really with this, there's a number of deductions, what benefits the existing community, as well as potentially any other contributions that you may get from other partners, such as the city of Pembroke or other sources. So at the end of this calculation, you can see that we're roughly identifying just under $10 million, $9.9 million of DCs. And that's split between the res and non-res between $7.5 million to $2.3 million. Okay. Now, just the last few slides here. So in terms of the current development charges right now, you do have, as I said, all in, at least for the municipal-wide side, it's about $3,193. And then you have another, $2,100 plus another $46 for water, wastewater, and storm. And you can see as we go to the different categories, you have your multiples, apartments, and then the non-residential amounts as well. Now, if we go to the next slide, which is now titled the draft development charges, you can see these are now the draft calculations based on that, $10 million, the $9.9 million that we've identified, divided by that growth forecast that you've seen, which was that 1,000 people and the 345 employees, or 300,000 square feet of homes. Oh, sorry, of non-residential gross floor area. And keep in mind that these charges here, they do not represent the water, wastewater, or storm services, and these are the maximum amounts that you can collect. So in terms of a single family home, it does calculate to about $16,000. And the lion's share of this is with the services related to a highway, because that was the largest component for your capital. And then you can see as we go to the different unit types, again, the less people that live in the home, the cheaper the rate. So once you get to a townhouse or a multiple, it's about $12,000. Apartments, anywhere from $6,600 to $8,800. We have some special care units as well at $5,900. And then your non-residential is calculating at $7.51 per square foot. And if we go to the next slide, it's the rate comparison. So I know your current charge right now is about $3,200 for the municipal-wide services, but you can see based on the capital program that was provided, especially coming from your master plan. So again, these are capital that is directly coming from your from your approved studies. This is where it's resulting into that large increase, especially on the road side. Parks and Recreation, you didn't have a charge before. Now you do have one at $2,200. And as you can see, these are the differences between the categories. And if we go to the next slide, the non-residential, again, similar concept. We're going from 45 cents to $7.51. Now, if we go to the next slide, which is the comparator of municipalities, this is for single-family homes because a lot of it is based on single-family equivalents. So you can see your current rate right now. You're on the right-hand side of this graph. You're moving towards the middle. Now, keep in mind these charges are only the municipal-wide, right? As I said, this grouping and the ranking would look very different once we add the water and wastewater component because there are some municipalities here where the lion's share of their costs are simply just water and wastewater, where they're approaching basically the Ottawa rates. Now, I would like to also point out that a couple of caveats. A number of these municipalities, such as Greater Madawaska, I believe Pembroke as well, and I believe there's a couple more. They are going through a development charge background study process. So where they at right now? The chances of them staying in that ranking will be very slim. As well, keep in mind that the town of Renfrew, while their charge is on the lower side here, they effectively have almost a 60% discount. Their calculated rates, should be about 60% higher. However, they've elected to reduce their rates, and that's what's being reflected here as well. And if we go to the last two, as I said, then we have the commercial per square foot. And again, I know it's a little bit of a change from the being on the right-hand side to the left-hand side of the comparator. But as I said, if you were to layer on the water and wastewater when that is forthcoming, this ranking will look very different. And as I mentioned already, a number of these municipalities are undertaking their DC process this year. And then the last comparator on this is the industrial. Same concept. You can see Ottawa even reduced their DC rates on the industrial side. But again, this is just based on the draft maximum calculated amount. And then the last slide, as I said, is the next steps. So we are looking to finalize all of the calculations and policies based on your feedback and looking to finalize everything, especially for the end of the year, and so that you'll have a new bylaw in place for the new calendar year in 2027. And as I mentioned, we do have the appendices within this report, or sorry, within this presentation. So that's something that should council want to look at. They are the specific capital sheets and all of the specific projects that are identified through each category. So that way you'll be able to review it in a background study. And that concludes my presentation.
Well, that was great, very informative. Council questions? I know it's pretty informative. I have a couple. I kind of concerned seeing we want to stay competitive, but we're going from one side of the chart to the other, and it concerns me a little bit. Or it concerns me a lot. Oh, I'm sorry, did you hear me? No. Can you hear me?
Yes, I did. Yes, I can hear you.
Oh, okay. So
Yeah.
my comment to you is like we're going from the one of the lowest on these survey comparative municipalities to one of the highest. And that kind of concerns me a bit. And I know it brings in more dollars for Laurentian Valley, but it doesn't leave us very competitive.
Yes. Great comment. And again, this is something that I did point out where if it would help, again, this is only on the municipal wide charge. It's not the total charge, which would include the water and wastewater and storm. I'd be happy to provide you with a survey of what that would look like with all of the charges combined, because then you can see where you would be, especially on the non-residential side.
So we'd be much lower than where we are now.
To say the least, yes.
Okay. Yeah,
This
so
is
really
just
we're
based
not
on the
looking at the whole
municipal
picture right now.
That's right, because it is missing the water and wastewater piece,
Okay.
which is the largest component for most municipalities.
Alan?
So the only part that kind of scares me is we were involved in the discussions on the agreement we have with the city of Pembroke, and part of the discussions there was that the development charges for water and wastewater in both municipalities were going to increase substantially from where they are today. So I would like to see it all in, but it still scares me because we have been told that our development charges for water, wastewater are going to be increased substantially. And we need to also, if we're looking at it, only a small portion of our municipality are on water and wastewater. So the vast majority of the possible development would be outside of water, wastewater, and so we're still looking at that high charge and moving us into like number 2. And like the mayor said, that kind of scares me that we're going to become very uncompetitive in that development world.
Comment to that, Byron, or?
Great comments and I guess observation as of right now, because we don't have the final charges from Pembroke and what those capital items will be. We do get some draft amounts, but as of right now, the way you would calculate the development charges is based on the capacity that the project generates. So it'd be premature for me to say whether your rates would go up, tenfold or fivefold. We would have to wait and see what those capital items are from Pembroke that would then trickle down into your study.
Okay. Do you want to comment on that, Gloria, before I go to Brian, or no?
I can comment now or after.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I think just the other comment to point out too is that, Byron did allude to it earlier in his presentation as well. If there are projects that we have to do based on growth, that it's that consideration that if it's a project that we need to do, there's the option of this is the maximum eligible charge. It's whether or not you're collecting the maximum that you're able to, or as Byron alluded to, for example, with the town of Renfrew, where they chose to collect a lesser amount, but understanding that if you're going to have to do that project anyways, that difference is probably going to come from then having to deal with your taxes in terms of how you're raising it. So it's kind of where, if it's again, you're trying to just include projects that you're going to have to do based on growth, but it's how you're funding that. You're making up the difference. If you're not collecting it from development charges, you're making up that difference from your taxes, or if you happen to be lucky enough to, get grants to offset, but somewhere that money does have to come from as well. So that's part of that decision. And I think also, to reminder, as we move forward, again, these are the maximum charges presented in the study, but at the end of the day, council can choose to either, direct a lesser charge in the actual bylaw that's adopted, and or remove certain projects that, if it's determined that there's a certain project that is not going to be done, then that would be taken out. But understanding once you take it out, then if you decide in the future that you're going to bring it back in, you've lost that time frame where you would have been collecting towards it. And then just in terms of, we're just waiting for an update as well from the city on, so Hempson is undertaking the joint sewer and water development charge study. So that will have its same kind of parallel process as well, that will have public consultation, but would require us to also pass another bylaw. There's still a whole lot of questions to come yet with some of that, but yes, that is another element that would layer on for those areas that are serviced by sewer and water.
Okay, Brian.
So this is based on growth over a 10-year period, and the increase in the DC here is about 500%. Is this something that we can index or do it over 5 years or 10 years as opposed to hit it with a 500% increase right off the hop here?
Laurie?
If you'd like, maybe Byron will weigh in on that one.
Yes, so a great question, Councillor. So through your worship, yes, so this is a 10-year growth forecast, and the way we've done the calculations, again, we were very thoughtful with the assumptions that were used as part of your master plans. I believe for all of your master plans, the Parks and Rec, the AT, as well as the transportation, all of them used a higher growth forecast than what was identified within our 10-year forecast. So that's why if you saw one of the slides where we had the summary of all of the calculations, you'll notice that the roads, the service oriented highway, and the parks and rec had a very large post-period benefit because we were trying to match the projects with respect to 10 years versus going out to their overall target, which I believe was like 14,000 people or something like that, from my recollection. So that's one item. Now, in terms of going from again a charge of what was here $3,000 to $16,000, you do have the ability to phase in the charge. So, for example, so to your point, perhaps you want to phase this over 2 or 3 years. You do it like 33% each time until you get to year 3. You have the ability to do so, but keep in mind in the years that you are phasing in, because we calculate the charge based on the amount of infrastructure you need to collect for. The years where you're now discounting at 66% in year 1 and then maybe 33% in year 2 before you get to year 3, the difference of what you're collecting, that amount then needs to be funded via property taxes or other sources, because we always need to put $16,000 into your reserve funds for every building permit to be able to pay for your capital program. So if you want to go from 3,000, let's say, to 6,000, then $10,000 that you're discounting in that 1 year, every time someone pulls a building permit, you have to make sure you're setting aside that discounted amount.
Okay, Al?
So there's a lot of roads in here that were in our transportation master plan, and I was under the impression that that was going to be decided down the road, and if funding was available, and how we were going to fund all these. And I see they're all in there, and we're going to include them in our development charge. It's like just a quick calculation here, like $50 million worth of roads are in here that are part of the transportation master plan. We're going to start collecting now, but we haven't decided we're going ahead with any of these projects? How does that, are we putting the cart before the horse, or?
Well, to some, if I may, Mayor Bennett, to some extent, that is part of that discussion now as well. So if there are, again, projects that, to do the maximum eligible calculation, that's where, Watson's have brought in what was in the master plans to show if they're included, this is the maximum that could be charged. So if now, where we keep, kind of reminding when we do come up with these development charge reviews that this is a capital forecast for, 10-year kind of projects, that if there are ones now that, council feels, okay, well, I don't really think this is palatable at this time, that we can afford to be doing that, or is this something that's a choice or not, then we can then have those removed when the study is, the draft is finalized before it goes to public consultation to show what that new charge would be. So that's certainly, in terms of, it was reviewed with staff and public works manager as well. And, in terms of, these are the input items, but this is also the other piece of this decision point. If there are projects that want to be removed and set aside for now, that they can also be taken out. So that's why with the extra sheets that are attached at the back with the list, that those are provided again for further consideration.
So I'm just wondering though, if we move forward with the bylaw, we start collecting this money, and then all of a sudden we decide to not do $10 million worth of road work or $20 million worth of road work, what happens to that development charge money then? We can't use it towards that if we don't do the project.
Yes, so you would still have to use that towards that type of a category, and this has come up in the past with other projects that things pivot. Byron may also be able to provide a little bit of an additional context for those types of situations, should a project be included that then not be able to be undertaken.
No, yes, thank you for that, Lori. So in terms of your scenario, so there could be 2 different scenarios that you're maybe thinking of. If you're collecting this amount and you decide, well, we don't want to do these projects and we want to swap them with something else, as long as that they're equivalent scope, then that's okay. You can always swap projects if there's something that's more of a priority. if it's truly where you've collected, X amount, call it, 10, $20 million, and you've decided to not do any of those projects in the future, then first off, you would now have an exorbitant reserve fund that you've collected for, whereby when you do update your DC, then theoretically your next development charge should plummet because you've already collected $20 million in the bank. You haven't spent anything, but then your capital program has also shifted by removing a number of projects that you no longer want to pursue. So when you're actually now doing the math 5, 10 years down the road, theoretically your charge shouldn't be 16,000, it'd probably be only 5,000, right? Depending on the order of magnitude. But having said that, because there's the years that you thought that you were doing these projects, obviously those developers that did pay at that $16,000 amount, yeah, I mean, not sure they'll be very happy that they did that and you're not now doing these projects. So there is a bit of a risk there, but I haven't seen it actually challenged in such a way. But then again, there's items that need to be considered. But it does need to, but if you know immediately that there's projects that you're not going to want to do, then you should open up your bylaw to remove those projects to reflect a lower charge immediately. If if that's the case.
Yeah, so the scary part about it is like Brian said, if it's like a 500% increase, is not only is that on the development charge side, but now on the municipal property tax side, the municipality has to come up with our share of all of those projects as well. So we're talking huge increases in municipal infrastructure. If we're looking at that kind of an increase in development charges, it only cover a certain percentage of that infrastructure. That's the real scary part, and I'm wondering where we plan on getting all of this money to do these projects.
So that's food for thought. I have two more questions. Brian, when you mention the affordable housing and the rules that builders have to go by, your comment at the end saying that it's a 25-year contract,
Yes.
and you said they would have to be checked annually or when a tenant moves out. We do that? And is that, like, we go to every landlord and say, what's your rent this year versus last year? Or how does that work?
I'm not sure how municipalities operate based
Okay.
on monitoring that. I'm just that's something that's maybe some municipalities have different processes, but I'm not familiar with how
Okay.
a municipality would manage and monitor that.
Okay, my last question is, when you predicted over the next 10 years, I think it was like 500 homes or 600 homes, 1,000 people in 10 years. But we have a development going on that's starting now that's going to create probably 400 homes, so we'll say 700 people. So the projects that are in the go now this year, have they been calculated into your 10-year? Or Laurie, do you want to answer that?
Yeah, I can speak to that a little bit. So we have provided Watson with all of our approved subdivisions and in the process. So that has all been factored in. Again, the understanding that is even with the numbers that are created, that in terms of the actual occupancy and moving in, that does stage in over time. So that has been part of their considerations.
Okay, thank you. I think that's it for council. Keith, sorry, you have a question, comment?
Laurentian Valley is just a small community, and we're in competition with, I guess, 15 other within the county. I guess the growth, I would like to see a closer measure to each of the other communities here in the county to see what is realistic. It looks like a huge increase. It is definitely a huge increase. And question for staff, when building permits are coming in now from just ordinary person who wants to build a house, do they object to the increased cost or to the cost of even having this development charge?
If I may, Mayor
Go
Bennett.
ahead.
So in terms of development charges, so even prior to amalgamation, former townships were engaged with lot levies, and as long as once the Development Charges Act was brought in, right away they pivoted to having development charges. So there's a long history of having development charges in place, and at each stage, because it was every 5 years that had to be reviewed, there was heavy public consultation and direct engagement with the builders and the development community. And again, through time, we hadn't had a lot of, in the most part, negative pushback. Again, it was accepted as part of the cost of building a home. And again, they were in a manageable range. Again, the understanding is, and yes, if looking at the proposed charge, we are potentially talking about a bigger, leap, but certainly we also had the comments coming from developers that were coming from larger centers that still our development charges were nowhere, near those kind of prices. The understanding, though, is that if their projects, and this is where I think we have to be, clear, and to Councillor Wren's point, looking at the projected works to do. It's if there are projects that we look at and go, you know what, really, this isn't necessarily going to be triggered by growth or needed at this point in time, that we really feel we need to take those out, that can be taken out to affect that different charge. The other thing is, as a reminder, these are, again, maximum ones, and there is before a bylaw is ever passed, there's a fulsome, detailed public consultation process where we can also, engage that bigger feedback as well, to say, like, is this, at what point is it a pinch point that you're not going to be building a house based on these costs? Again, if we're talking about, bigger developments, it's different, obviously, than your one-off builder, but it is all growth that does pay. But generally speaking, it hasn't been a backlash, but it has been, like, incrementally increasing.
So, one other question then. Does the homeowner actually get to see the development cost, or is that built into the developer or the builder who builds a home?
So if it's, again, with some of the houses, it is the person who is building it that's on an individual lot. So where we have now, again, the subdivisions coming in, that's where most often it would have been reflected in the price if they're buying the house from the builder, as opposed to buying a lot and then building their house. So it just depends on which scenario where that price is built into.
Okay, so good conversation, great information. Look forward to including the water and sewer down the road, and looking at the capital costs for down the road as well. Is there a delay in getting the water and sewer? Do we need to make a phone call to kind of move that forward, or?
So if I may, Mayor Bennett,
Yes.
so that is a separate study with a separate process that isn't necessarily tied to this bylaw process. Understanding that the information, is obviously of interest to council. So I have reached out to Brian Lewis with the City of Pembroke, and Hempson is the firm that is undertaking the joint study, and they are proposing to come to both councils on the same night and do kind of dual presentations, and he was looking into what their timeline might be. At different times, again, we thought that we might be close to getting to those points, but I understand there are some other studies that feed into that, but also, to Byron's presentation here tonight as well, too, as he showed, the province has been changing the footing underneath everybody for these studies as we've been undertaking them as well. So that's affected a little bit of the timelines as well.
Okay, thank you very much, Brian.
Thank you, everyone.
Okay. Thank you. Okay. Laura?
No, we're going back.
And I guess just that one, further to Councillor Wren's discussion point there, that, if there's, in addition to what we kind of have before council for a resolution, it's just, if that's specifically an item of concern in terms of the projects from the TMP, that perhaps the public works manager can review further if there's any items that to flag.
Well, I guess just, like, I would think that something to that extent of that amount of money would have come to council and we would have had some input on what we're looking at as far as that type of infrastructure over the next 10 years. That's a lot of money. That when I looked at that scared the hell out of me. And some of the roads are not even in the municipality, and we're talking $7-8 million. They're in a neighboring municipality. So I have some questions about that on how is that shared? Is that just our share of it? And why are we rebuilding a road in the city? I know we have an agreement for water and sewer, and it could be tied to that, but I have a lot of questions on the roads and the infrastructure, the paved shoulders, I've got a lot of questions on how much money is in there, and like I said, it scares the hell out of me.
Go ahead. Brian and then Laura.
Yeah, and to say that there hasn't been a great deal of objection to our rate so far, well, that's because they're at the bottom and you can justify it and say there's some of the lowest around, but now we're jumping into the high end, and that's going to change things a lot when you move this much.
Laura.
And I think, again, just, as far as how this process does go, that there is no decision on this capital forecast. This is exactly why we brought it with these calculations, so that council is aware that if we are moving forward with these projects, this is what this does start to mean. So that definitely is the point, to give council that opportunity for that input and discussion, that it's not a done deal per se, and that's where, if, again, to bring back, with some follow-up, further discussion to scope back this program. But even if we, there's still other opportunities for decision and discussion points, and even if this were taken out to the public as part of a draft bylaw, that's not necessarily the ultimate that's passed, and those things could also be further refined and pulled out before that as well. So if that's, definitely something as a direction to come back and, take a look at specific projects. And again, because this was more of a PowerPoint presentation, there is some additional information that's included in both the transportation master plan, and then that would be also in the DC study that would further explain, and I believe even in the transportation master plan itself, it had some further information on where or why the splits of costs of those shared ones that are joint projects with the city of Pembroke because of their location.
So just from my understanding from the transportation master plan, when we went through it, there was a lot of nice to have things in there, but it was going to be decided down the road if that was something that we jointly we're going to move forward on in the whole bit, and now I'm seeing it in writing, and I'm saying, ooh, like, when were we going to make the decision on, yeah, that's a good to have, but we can't really afford it, and yeah, that's one that we really have to have. So I think we need to have that conversation about the entire list. My feeling, anyway.
Yep, and we will down the road, right? Okay. Thanks, Laurie. Okay, our next delegation, Dorian Pierce from, I'll let you pronounce it. Kitsisipi. Welcome, Dorian, Laurentian Valley. Betty.
Just before Dorian gets started, as you know, I sit on the consortium, and a few months ago, there's been so much happening at Festival Hall and what's been going on since Kitsisipi took on. I asked Dorian if he would come and make a presentation to council on where we are, how things are going since he's took over. So just as a feedback of why he's here.
Well, that's great, and again, welcome.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me. I'm excited to give a presentation about all the things we've been up to at Festival Hall over the last year and a half now. So if we can move over to the next slide. So a little bit of background here. Festival Hall is the largest performing arts theater between Ottawa and North Bay. And it's operated as a partnership between the Township of Laurentian Valley, the City of Pembroke, and the Town of Petawawa. And and also with the Conseil des écoles publiques de l'Est de l'Ontario, so the French Public School Board, which is an important partner with us as well. So following the procurement process through the City of Pembroke, Kitchissippi Productions was selected as the new operator for Festival Hall in December of 2024, and we got started with the contract on January 1st of last year. And we can move over to the next slide. So we're going to be doing a little update on the facility and some of the operations of the space. So when it comes to our box office, when we took over, we moved to a new ticketing platform, one that I believe is more user-friendly for our patrons. We've heard a lot of good feedback on that. At all of our events now, we have ticket scanners in use. You can see on the screen there, somebody getting their ticket scanned, and this really allows us to have a better grasp of how many people are in the hall at one time, whether we can start the show on time or not based on the numbers coming in. And we also have a new CRM that we implemented, which has really improved our customer service and our response times with that. A customer relationship manager. Over in our canteen, and you can see one of our volunteers there on the right, we've done a few new upgrades there. So we have a new popcorn machine that we use. Prior to last year, there were some shows where there was popcorn available. There were some where there was, some where there wasn't. Now it's available at every show. We have debit and credit available in the canteens as well. We've added a new separate bar to help with congestion in the lobby during a show. And also, whenever we have at least 100 patrons up in the balcony, we also have a new balcony canteen that we operate, again, to avoid people going downstairs and jumping in line there. When it comes to facility upgrades, a big highlight for us has been the introduction of a new capital fee. So approximately $1.25 per ticket sold at Festival Hall goes into our capital bucket. And we've moved forward with a number of upgrades over the last year or so. The biggest one is the first one on that list, our stage lighting upgrade. That's about a $50,000 upgrade that got completed this year, and it was needed. The lighting in our facility, the majority of it was still from the original install in 1979. There were issues with getting light bulbs. The majority of the lights were failing at that point, so it was really important that we got ahead of that and did a new stage lighting install. And that was funded 50% by the Festival Hall Consortium and 50% by the French Public School Board. So big thank you to the French Public School Board for their contribution to that. Another one, and this is coming up in the summer, is a video install. So we had a sponsor come on board to help us install some new TVs, some new video equipment in the hall. And we have Sean Benke from Combatech Multimedia. I believe he's also the one who installed the video system here in Council Chamber. He's done a video install at Festival Hall, which is really going to allow us to do more different kinds of events, right? It allows us to offer a service where we can videotape any shows, any events that happen at Festival Hall in-house, so they don't have to bring their own videography team in to do that. We have it all available on site. It also allows us to enter into the world of hybrid events, enter into the world of conferences with the new video equipment and new TVs. We're also in the process of doing an asset management plan for the entire facility. We're doing that with Chris Neff, who is the Festival Hall, the Laurentian Valley staff rep on the Festival Hall Consortium. And he's helping us with that and making sure that all of the equipment and all of the facilities, we have a plan for how we're going to replace that as things begin to age in the facility. A couple of other items here. We now have implemented having a front of house manager for all events, which is on our staff. This has been a really huge help because our entire front of house team is volunteer led. So your ushers, the people in the canteen, and Betty actually helped out in the canteen a couple of times now. The people who run the coat check, scanning tickets, it's all a volunteer team that we train and manage on that end. And having a staff front of house manager for all of the shows has been a really huge help in coordinating all of that. We've hired an administrative assistant to join the team, and we have a summer student currently, and we had one last year as well, which was funded through the Canada Summer Jobs Program. And we also just added a volunteer coordinator as well, because we have quite a large group of volunteers to manage, and going into the fall especially, there's some weekends where we have 4, 5, 6 shows in a weekend, and having enough volunteers and staffing to keep that going, we needed that extra position to keep everything coordinated. An important piece for us is the relationship with the school. So Festival Hall is attached to Les Quinottes, which is the French school in Pembroke, or the French public school in Pembroke. And since we've taken over, we've had a good relationship with them. We've established a new procedure for the school bookings and use of Festival Hall. So Festival Hall is a shared use space between the hall and the school. And so we now have a pretty good system for if the school needs to use the hall. And the gymnasiums within the school are also shared use. So there are times where Festival Hall needs to use the gymnasium, so we have a booking procedure with them on how we share the use of those two facilities, and we have a shared calendar between the two of us now, which has been a big help since last year. A passion of mine is the youth programming at Festival Hall. This is a brand new thing that we've implemented since last year. In my other job, I own a local dance studio in Pembroke called Lift Acro Evolution. So I've been teaching dance in the community. I've been doing youth programming for years. And so I thought it was important that our, community theater has some of this as well. So last year, the first bit of youth programming that we did is we did a March break camp. And then following that, we had our junior theater camp for ages 7 to 10 last summer, and our youth theater intensive for ages 10 and up last summer as well. So there were 2 weeks of summer camp that we did. And both of those weeks ended with a show on the Friday that the parents and community members can come and see what everybody did throughout the week. I've also, in my capacity as Festival Hall director, had some presentations that I've done with Valor High School, their drama program there, and Fellows High School as well, going there and talking with the youth about all the things going on at Festival Hall and how to get involved. A new thing that we implemented this year is we have our fall theater program and our spring theater program that we launched. So our fall theater program went from September to December. And at the end of December, I believe there were 18 youth that participated, and they all did a little monologue, and it was a great program led by our theater program director, Karen Walsh, at the hall. And then with the success of that last year, we decided to move forward with our spring theater program this year, and that launched just after March break. And it's ending on June 28th this year. And it's actually ending in a full-length play that they're doing, about an hour and 45 minutes, called The Somewhat True Tale of Robin Hood. And the community is welcome to come and see what we've been up to there. And it really is a full production, microphones, lights, sets, props, the whole thing, and really a great experience for them. And this summer we have 3 summer camps that we have. So our junior theater camp sold out last year, so we added a second one this year. And we also are bringing back our youth theater intensive as well. So we have 3 camps next summer. And here on this slide, you can see a little bit on the left hand, up in the left corner, that's me at Valor High School presenting there. doing a little tour of Festival Hall on the right-hand side there. And down on the bottom, you can see a picture of the beginning of the March break camp that we held last year. A big highlight for us is our volunteer program and how we've been able to really increase that at the hall. We have about 80 volunteers who contribute. And last year that meant, and again, this is only in 2025. In 2026, we have almost double the amount of shows compared to last year. Last year, that meant 604 volunteer shifts and over 2,200 hours of volunteering at the hall to keep all of these shows running. And it really takes a big team of anywhere between 10 and 20 people per show, depending on the size of the show and what's needed to do all the things that need to get done. Some highlights from last year. So last year we had 45 shows and the box office issued just over 13,000 tickets. Going into this year, and this number is a little bit outdated by a few weeks, so I believe we're 70 some now. But as of a few weeks ago, we had 64 shows signed or in the process of being signed for this year. And that's a short update of Festival Hall. I'm happy to take any questions you might have. You can see some photos here of just the great team and atmosphere that we have there. And Andrew Bing, our technical director, just above the thank you there, who's actually there at the hall right now. We have a dance studio in there this week doing some rehearsals for their recital this weekend. So it's a busy place.
Well, very impressive. It's a thriving place to be right now, and very impressive with everything going on. Council, any questions or comments? Brian?
With the new video install, are you going to have backstage or monitors at all, or in the wings?
Not with this upgrade, not right away. We don't have that, but we're hoping to add that in the future for sure.
Yeah, it would certainly be an easy add, but I know when I'm there for the music festival and for other events where you have action happening in front of the curtain and nobody can see when to make their entrances and those sorts of things, it would certainly be simplify things and less commotion in the backside with everybody trying to peek and see what's going on and where it's at. So if you include that in, that would be great.
Okay. Anybody else? Betty, I'll let you finish.
Yes. Yep. Dorian's come a long way since he started a year ago. A little different shift, different take on things, which has brought some new ideas. The youth summer camps have been phenomenal. And I think that's a great thing to try and get our kids involved in theater and theatrics, not even just as far as acting or singing, but as he says, in, stage production, props and sets and lighting and, that type of thing. It's looking at entrepreneurships. I believe there is one student that's working with, I forget his name now. Andrew, on entrepreneurship with lighting and technological stuff like that. So it's been a great year, very busy year and a half.
Good for you. Keep it going. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Move down to municipal reports, CAO report, and for Dean. If not, treasurer's report. Public Works. Keith.
I did attend the AOR's Day up in Petawawa, and if anybody has time, next one is close by, be sure to be there because it's just amazing the equipment that is available for use. They had a couple little lawnmowers, I guess 2.5 feet by 2.5 feet by 2.5 feet, and they are used for in and around guard posts on highways and things like that, and they come with a fee of about $44,000. So that's just a little sample that everything there is just beautiful and be great to have, but it's the cost, just incredible. And it was a great turnout there that I saw. So I just want to congratulate our staff for the participation that they did in it too, because I've heard a lot of other people speaking not very highly of it.
Yeah, it sounded very successful, Mark, and big attendance, and booths are sold out weeks in advance. And unfortunately, I got up there Wednesday afternoon at 3:30. It ended at 3, which I didn't look at the times, but, so I wasn't able to get in, but pass on our congrats to Petawawa and to the whole committee, and especially you and Brad, because I know Brad carried a big role in that as well, so job well done. Planners report? Anything for Lori? Seeing none. Mayor's report, had a few, we had a rec meeting at the end of May. We're just waiting for our next meeting to announce where we're gonna come back to council with. Waste Recovery Center are operating, they're busy. And I had a meeting Monday with Jennifer and Chris regarding the first intake of grants that people have applied for, so I believe Chris will bring that to council next week. Motion?
Yes, please.
Jennifer and Betty?
Moved by Councillor Gauthier, second by Councillor King, that the council receive the following reports for mid-May to mid-June 2026 at the regular council meeting of June 16th. CAO's report, Treasurer's report, Public Works Manager's report, Planner CMC report, and the Mayor's report.
All in favor? Carried. Move on to a motion to open a public planning meeting. Betty and Alan?
Moved by Councillor King, second by Councillor Wren, that the Council of the Township of Laurentian Valley pursuant to Section 34 of the Planning Act hereby declare a public meeting open at 7:10 p.m. to discuss the application for zoning bylaw amendment Z 2023-03 revised application Hetty Bed and Breakfast.
Okay, all in favor? Carried. Lori?
Yes, so we have before council a revised application for zoning bylaw amendment. Again, it's file Z 2023-03 revised. There had been two previous public meetings, April 18th, 2023 and July 25th, 2023, with a different request. So those were also statutory public meetings. But this notice, again, was reissued in accordance with the requirements of the Planning Act and was sent out on the 27th day of May, 2026. And the notice is as follows, that the purpose, effect, and location of the zoning bylaw amendment, and the purpose is to add a bed and breakfast as a permitted use in an existing single detached dwelling located at 800 Forest Park Road. The zoning bylaw definition for bed and breakfast establishment means an owner-occupied single detached dwelling or portion thereof in which there are no more than 3 guest rooms used or maintained for hire or gain on a temporary or day-to-day basis as accommodation with or without meals for other persons, particularly tourists or vacationers. The definition doesn't include a motel, hotel, apartment, dwelling house, boarding house, rooming house, restaurant, or any other establishment defined in the bylaw. It's noted that the application was previously for a short-term rental accommodation, but that's now been revised to request permission for a bed and breakfast establishment, which would be owner-occupied. So the effect of the amendment is to establish a residential 1 exception 44 R1 E44 zone with special provision to add a bed and breakfast as a permitted use, and to rezone the subject property from residential 1 to residential 1 exception 44. Again, the lands affected by the amendment are located at 800 Forest Park Road within Part Lot 5, Concession 4 in the geographic township of Pembroke, as shown on the key map. And for those in the room, it's also, there's an air photo showing the location of the property as well. And again, copies of any information related to the application remain available for review at the township office and by contacting the township office. And it's, again, Z 2023-03, and again, there's an opportunity for members of the public to provide any comments, supportive or opposition to, and that by providing comments, people do provide permission for sharing of their information, name, and comments as part of the public record.
Okay, any questions of council? Seeing none, questions from the public, comments? Hi? You come forward and we'll get you to go where, Laurie? I just ask you state your name and your address, please.
Thank you. Shan Wormke, 790 Forest Park Road. My main concern is I spoke with Laurie, and just the owner-occupied nature of a bed and breakfast. I'm not hearing how council ensures that the host is there and is the owner. I know with Ontario Hydro, for instance, if you change your occupancy as we did from a cottage to a residence, we had to actually prove through our driver's license that that was our primary residence. And I'm just curious as to how council ensures that the property is actually used primarily as a residence, and then the bed and breakfast is just a secondary use. In speaking with Laurie, I understand, if there are complaints, that it's the neighbor's responsibility, but that's a very informal way of doing business with a bed and breakfast. So we're here to just hear the council's comments and questions or concerns. It changes the nature of the neighborhood. I'm not against bed and breakfast. I think they're a good thing. But how do we ensure that the primary use in a residential neighborhood is a residence?
Okay, Dean, I don't know if you want to speak to that first, or?
No, I think I'll pass to Laurie in the sense of it, because there might be some criteria there as to how, maybe we can tell council if to recall where we were and where we're heading, I guess, at this point, because I know we had an application prior to do, I guess, a different zoning, correct? Short-term rental, yeah, thanks. So I don't know if you want to comment if there is a requirement with regards to the provision with regards to what Mrs. Wormke is mentioning.
Yeah, so to this point, so we do have other bed and breakfasts permitted within the township in various zones, and some were site-specific in rural zones as well. At this point, there has not been a registration requirement with the the traditional bed and breakfast where the homeowner is present when the guests are there, which is what the traditional bed and breakfast would be. So to this point, there hasn't been any other licensing bylaw. Where the draft licensing bylaw has been brought forward to council, that was specifically related to short-term accommodation and setting up a whole scenario system for those to be in place. But that request has now been removed in terms of this particular site-specific rezoning. Again, at this point, and just for those that are listening, we still do remind that at this point in time that regular short-term accommodation is not a permitted use, and again, staff are aware that we will be sending out some letters for ones where it's been brought to our attention.
So is there a way to change it that we ask for proof of residency through a driver's license, as mentioned earlier? Is that something we can look at for B&Bs?
So I guess the question is whether, council wants to limit it to that they're residing there full-time, or whether it's that they're on premise and they're residing when they have guests there as well. So there's kind of two pieces of that. So we may not have, you could potentially have a person that doesn't live there full-time, so they haven't got a change of address, but that they're present on site at all times when there's guests there. So again, some of that may have to be governed not under a zoning bylaw amendment, may be required to be governed under other licensing under the Municipal Act that council could bring into play in terms of that.
I really don't think it's up to the neighbors to complain who's there, who's not there, but I think there's a way we should look into, if council agrees, somehow to prove that the operator is at least part-time resident or is there when there are people staying over using the B&B. There's gotta be a way, because we don't want to be spending money in our bylaw enforcement officer, checking things out, or it can't get kind of dicey as well. Keith, and then Alan.
Laurie, on page 2, under zoning bylaw, it says the existing definition in the comprehensive zoning bylaw states bed and breakfast establishment means an owner-occupied single detached dwelling or a portion thereof in which there is no more than 3 guest rooms. So to not have that, are we going against our own zoning?
I guess the question is, though, in terms of, at this point, like for the existing, we don't have a licensing where an existing bed and breakfast, somebody comes in and provides their driver's license to demonstrate that they've moved full-time there. So in terms of that, that's where that would be something that could be, if council wants us to bring in a separate licensing part of that to then apply to all the, with bed and breakfast, that's something that we could bring in as another piece. I think just to clarify the point with, in terms of responding to complaints, that the question was more phrased in terms of like how, when we do have existing uses, and if there's a contravention, that usually that's brought to light based on a complaint, from a neighbor in that respect. But again, the request that was brought forward, for the bylaw to be amended was to provide that as an additional potential use for that property, being a bed and breakfast, being the owner occupied.
Al?
So there would have to be some type of way to determine that the owner is present when or somebody is present whenever there are guests in there, and you would have to be able to do that to distinguish then between a short-term rental and a bed and breakfast. Because if there's not an owner operator or they're a designate present, then it becomes a short-term rental operating as a bed and breakfast. So there's got to be some way that the municipality has some recourse that if they have 3 guests there, but then there's nobody responsible for the property present and in the property, then it's a short-term rental, it's not a bed and breakfast.
I guess, we have to, obviously, Laurie and what Rivwada stated, that the definition is quite clear that somebody's supposed to be there. So that's kind of, and I think we got to base it on now whether we can tighten that up in the bylaw somehow of putting some kind of condition further to that, or at least stating that, I guess it comes down to the fact that, if we're getting complaints or we've got something saying that there is no residence, permanent resident there, or somebody acknowledging that they're there, then obviously we go in and there's a letter sent to them saying this is not the way this is supposed to work, and if the bylaw is there to back it up, then we can either pull the thing or, go down a path of some kind of enforcement at that point. But I think we just need to kind of proceed that the definition is clear, that somebody needs to be present at the time of the rental. So,
Brian?
So what teeth is there in the bylaw when you say enforce it? What does that involve, or?
well, we can put different kind of things. One could be a fine. We could go down that path, or we can put.
Is there anything in there at the moment, though?
Well, no, at this point, I'm not sure. I guess I'm asking Laurie that. I'm not sure if that's something we want to relook at.
So currently, in terms of enforcement of, anybody who's contravened a use of the zoning bylaw, it does go through more of a provincial offenses process. One thing that I will advise for council that is, I think there's a high likelihood that once the provincial government sits again in the fall, they have put out for public comment closes in the next 2 weeks to add land use planning contraventions as an item that municipalities can use AMPs for, which you are going to have a presentation coming very shortly from our chief building official, also bylaw enforcement officer, related to bringing amps in for a number of other bylaws. And what that allows for is basically a ticket book that they can write a ticket, that you're not waiting to go back to provincial offenses. So, anticipating that probably within a year, we may have another an easier tool, not just for all the items that our bylaw enforcement officer will be bringing back for you, but that very shortly after that, looks like the province is going to allow us to add on land use plan, which will be a much welcomed tool. One of the few changes that has been easier to fathom with the changes being brought forward on the Planning Act.
I totally agree with everything being said here. I just said, it's a B&B that we're going to accept now, and there's going to be more in the future. And I think if the more we can tighten the bylaw, the better. And even if it was required by the owner-operator to submit names as to who are the owner-operators of the B&B, so at least then who it has to be. It's either the owner, or maybe they've hired someone to operate the B&B. Therefore, the people are certainly shortlisted as to who the operators are. I just think one more step could be taken, and then it could be followed down the road with other acceptance of B&Bs.
So if that's the case, Laurie, do you want, with regards to the motion itself, do we want to hold off and relook at the bylaw, or do we want to pass it and then deal with it after? It's going back to on the 16th, so it's not as if it's not tonight. So just want to be clear.
Tonight is the 16th.
Today's 16th.
That's what I mean, so it's going today, so we don't have the time to, what I was saying, if we could go back at it, but at this point, just trying to find out.
Could we add to it and bring it next week? We have a council meeting next week. Would one more week be delayed to alter it? If council is in agreement?
Yes, Mayor Bennett, that could be something that we could bring, another consideration for how to tighten that.
Okay.
We could bring that for next week, yes.
Okay.
Just a suggestion, could there be a sign off by the owner that these are the rules, that there has to be an owner operator present whenever there's somebody using the bed and breakfast, and they sign off that they agree to that. So now that gives it just a little bit more teeth, that if all of a sudden there's people in there and nobody present, you signed off.
So we'll leave it up to you to come back next week.
And excuse me, Mayor Bennett, sorry, I believe our deputy clerk has. Is there a hand raise? No. So.
Is there anybody online, Laura? Okay.
Sorry, apologies. So I would just speak that if, I believe Shaminda Eddy is online. I'm not sure if you wanted to speak. If you do, you could raise your hand symbol if it's on the computer version of Zoom, and the deputy clerk will upgrade you to be able to speak. At this time, the hand has not been raised.
Okay. So are we going to?
Well, I guess the motion is on the floor to bring the bylaw back to the 24th, so, if I get a mover and a seconder for that.
Jennifer, Betty?
Moved by Councillor Goche, second by Councillor King, that council approves a revised application, zoning bylaw file amendment Z 2020-2303, Hetty Bed and Breakfast, with revisions to the bylaw to add to the bed and breakfast as a permitted use in Forge bylaw 2025, as presented or amended to the bylaw portion of the June 24th regular council meeting for passing.
All in favor? Okay. That's all that'll be discussed on it tonight. Sorry to keep you waiting so long before your item came up.
Thank you.
Motion to adjourn the public planning meeting. Alan and Keith.
Moved by Councillor Wren, second by Marie Watt, that the Council of Township of Laurentian hereby declare the public meeting June 16th, 2026 be adjourned at 7:30 p.m.
All in favor? Carried. Under business, motion for development charges.
I
Do
guess
you want to speak to it again, Laurie, or?
I just think maybe whether the motion stands well enough, but I think the thing that we will add as staff is we'll review with the Public Works Manager for some recommendations related to the items that are included with the Transportation Master Plan, if there's ones that would be perhaps could be put off for further consideration versus ones that are considered more urgent.
Okay. Motion?
Mover and seconder.
Keith and Brian?
Moved by Reeve Watts, second by Councillor Ugly, that the council directs Watson Associates to finalize the proposed updated development charge calculation policies to address comments provided by council and to prepare a draft background study for public consultation per the Development Charges Act requirements.
All in favor? Carried. Next item is direction of council regarding OPA number 22, additional consent criteria. Laurie?
Yes, so per some previous discussions, with council, there had been the intimation of wanting to have some alternative policies brought forward in an official plan amendment to expand the number of lots from an original holding from the 3 that was brought in place with the current official plan that's been in place for, since 2004. So as part of that, looking at the closest options out there for having maybe some consistency with a similarity of the area, there is policies that are contained in the county official plan that do provide for some additional consent criteria. And for example, I've included those in the report. And this would allow for, again, the maximum number of new lots permitted. Your first blush is that it's 3 lots per holding, with the holding defined as an original holding as of June 1st, 1971. And then it does have a second piece of that that says that in addition to those 3 lots, normally considered, that there's the possibility for 2 additional consents for residential purposes, provided following criteria are met, and that lists, doesn't create conflict with abutting land uses, doesn't lead to additional demand for increased municipal services. There's some infilling policies, it doesn't create ribbon development, and that the first 3 lots have been developed that have already been severed off, and again, that there's adequate servicing capacity. And then it lists a little bit of additional review that when it's creating more than 5 lots per holding discouraged, it does provide, again, some additional criteria beyond that. And again, justification reports and why subdivision isn't appropriate. So that's basically just a bit of a summary of kind of what's in the current county official plan. So then the other option is we do, with the abutting town of Petawawa, they do also have some additional consent criteria in their current official plan. And just to, again, give some context as well, their approval authority, like the Township of Laurentian Valley, is the County of Renfrew when it comes to official plan amendments. So we're dealing with the same approval authority. And in theirs, it's that, again, the preference for larger development is stated as being subdivision. However, again, it does have that, again, starting off with, that you start off with the premise of 3 lots. Their original holding date is January 10th, 1987, which they tied to the first, the official plan date from the former township of Petawawa. And then in terms of above the maximum of 3 lots, that that you're basically allowed 2 additional, and they've tied that to their residential and commercial designations, where we would name our designations residential in this rural as well in that situation. So I just, again, provided 2 kind of context examples. It's not to say that we can't evolve ours a little bit more in terms of when I bring the actual draft back that will go for public consultation, but just to get a little bit of direction from council in terms of the thoughts of 3+2, 3+1, 3+3 in terms of that direction before I bring that to the public.
Alan?
So it'd be my recommendation based on conversations I've had with people in the municipality that we would increase it by at least 2, possibly 3. I do like that there's some criteria that go along with it, because we just don't want crazy development all over the place. It still has to be planned and the whole bit. Just in, I guess, the Petawawas one, when I was reading it, it's tied to service lots. So that would be, I think they're both good, but that would be one that most of the people that I've talked to are looking at increasing their severances in the rural area, so it would be unserviced lots. That would be my comment on what I read from them. They're both good, and I agree that there has to be some type of criteria, and I agree that the push should always be plan of subdivision, but there are lots of places within the municipality, especially in the rural area, where there could be 1 or 2 or 3 more severances that aren't going to be on prime agricultural land, that is on land that basically is just sitting there doing nothing today. And I think we all realize that there is a real appetite for residential expansion within Laurentian Valley with very few lots.
Anybody else? I certainly agree with Alan, but is there a reason why we wouldn't go to 3 as long as the rules are in place? Like, there's probably, like, why not? Because like as Alan said, the lots are few and far between. You have more families that own land that are now the next generation, and they're trying to, help their kids build a property. They don't have to go out and pay $200,000-300,000 for a lot. It's all within the family. So if you happen to have more than 1 child, you may want to do 2 more. Maybe it's already had 3 done already. So to me, as long as the rules are there, I'd be going 3, and let's make it as accessible for families to do that. Dean?
There's one question I do have, Lori, I guess, and I'm a little wondering, with regards to the original holding, and option 1, original holding 71, and then in option 2, Petawawa's got 87. So does that mean, and I visualize this, but you got 100 acres, and it was, 3 severances done back in 1982. Now all of a sudden Petawawa sees each of those severances as a new holding as of 87? Is that, and then so you another 3 or another 5 on top of that going through there? I mean, I know there'd be some criteria of acreage and all that stuff, but if I took the 100 and I split it 3 times into 33s, and then in 87 now it's 33 is a new one, and I can split it 5 more times from there. Is that what that's saying?
Yeah, so the thing about the dates, so the dates do have some significance. So the one that the county plan uses is tied to when there was significant change in the province related to subdivision and consent approval. So that's where their date is. For Petawawa's date, again, it was picked based on the Township of Petawawa's official plan. And again, with the context that I provided for ours, when we did do the new, the first Laurentian Valley official plan, we did look at the 3 different dates from the former official plans and picked the one in the middle. So one, it did provide a benefit to Alice and Fraser that there were actually there were some that had an earlier date. So I mean, in terms of the date, I might suggest that we stick with the date that we had, because the problem is if we do, first of all, the county will be weighing in on that date selection. I'm anticipating that the preference would be that it matches the same date as what's in the county, because it provides some consistency, but I would be proposing the date from ours. The problem is if we brought it to a date more current to today, the extra pressure that it adds is that for some of those areas that are already overly congested with strip development, it would put more pressure on. Again, the understanding is still that there are criteria and council can weigh that and in terms of the other policies that we, flesh out, that just because you could have the extra lots doesn't mean that you're necessarily going to get those extra lots if there's other reasons why that shouldn't occur. But I think, yeah, the date is an important consideration.
No?
And I agree 100%. I don't think we can change our date. Our date is our date. We picked it way back when. And I don't think this is the
No.
time to change from the original holding. We're changing it now from 3 to 5 or 6, which I think is the improvement that everybody was looking for.
So Laurie, what's the process going forward?
So I will be accelerating the amendment. So I will, again, I had some very preliminary conversations, with the county earlier in the year. So I will be bringing forward a draft. Now, later on tonight, I think, or subsequent to this, our CAO will be discussing about potential future dates
Yes.
in the summer for council meetings. And if there is a special council to deal with a number of items at the end of July, that would provide me with ample time, because I would have to put this one in the Pembroke Observer because it is a township-wide affected amendment, but that would give me enough time to give that 20 days notice to get that, and then that would provide, once the process that it works when it's an amendment to our official plan is that once council adopts it, then it is sent to the County of Renfrew for approval, and that's also why I note that there is a fee that we pay to the county. We essentially become like an applicant in a sense for that, but it's a nominal fee. But that's basically what we have as costs are the advertising and the fee to the county.
Okay, so,
So I guess I'm looking to see option 1 or 2. Is that, anybody want to make a motion?
I thought Lori was going to draft our own based kind of loosely
Okay.
on one of those two. And I like both of them. The only thing I would take out of the one is where it's tied to a service law. So if between the two of them, Lori could draft something and bring it back to us, with the criteria,
Just put
with our
1 and
own,
2.
Date,
Just put option 1 and 2.
I'll just take that out of there, okay.
does that make sense, Lori?
Yes, I understand. Yep.
Okay, mover and a seconder.
Alan and Brian.
Moved by Councillor Wren, second by Councillor Ugly, that the council directs township planner to prepare OPA number 22 as presented in the report titled Direction from Council regarding OPA 22 additional consent criteria dated June 15th, which will be amended to create our own.
All in favor? Carried. Brian needs a pee break, so we'll take 2 minutes here. We'll make it a short break. Thank you. Okay, we'll move down to business. The AMP Annual Progress Report. Annie, please.
Yes, so this is the annual asset management progress report, which is required under Ontario Regulation 588-17 of the Asset Management Planning and Municipal Infrastructure. Basically, we have to present a progress report on the implementing of the asset management plan for the previous year, so 2025, and the regulation stipulates like there's 3 questions that have to be answered. So what is the progress made in implementing the asset management plan? What factors are impeding the implementation, and what strategies can we bring forward to address them? So basically, the report states what's been done in 2025 for the different categories, like transportation, where just about 8 kilometers of road were rehabilitated, or there was resurfacing done. There was also a lot of maintenance, crack sealing and patching, work done on gravel roads. There was works done for water and wastewater, like the Indian Court pump station, a lot of maintenance and preventative maintenance to help the life cycle of the assets. As for vehicles, there's no major acquisitions in 2025. Implementation of preventative maintenance to extend the asset life, and reviewing the fleet replacement schedule and reserves. There was also work done in stormwater, so the storm drain replacement at the Fire Hall and Lawrence Street East. There was preventative maintenance performed on storm sewer system, including main flushing and catch basin cleaning. As for facilities, there were health and safety improvements done to the administration building here and also at some of the recreation facilities. Upgrades done to rec buildings, including HVAC systems, and some ongoing maintenance. Land improvements, some works were done on playgrounds at the different recreation facilities. Our parking lot that was maintained and had new lines done last year. And as for asset data and management system, so asset inventories were maintained and updated as capital projects were completed. Replacement values, useful lives and condition information continue to be reviewed annually, and asset management information was incorporated into the budget and long-range capital planning discussions. Then we did show the 25-year capital requirements. There's some big numbers there for transportation, drinking water, stormwater, and wastewater. So that's basically what's been done over the last year. What's impending the implementation, of course, there's always a funding gap. So in the asset management plan, there is a funding deficit that was identified for transportation, which is the biggest one at 7.2 million, but also some in drinking water and stormwater. Also, the inflation and construction costs, everything going up, is also another factor that comes into consideration when trying to stay up to date with infrastructure maintenance and replacement. So what can we do to address this? Is basically continuing to do the annual updates to the asset management plan, integrate asset management priorities into our annual capital and operating budgets, continue development of infrastructure reserve and reserve fund strategies, pursue external grant opportunities to reduce pressure on the property taxation, expand condition and assessment programs where practical to improve life cycle forecasting and risk analysis, and continue the implementation of the asset management plan commitment to incorporate non-condition related factors into future risk management assessment.
Okay, thank you, Annie. Any questions for Annie? Have a motion? Keith and Jennifer?
Moved by Reeve Watt, second by Councillor Gauthier, that the Corporate Service and Protection Committee recommends council receive the annual asset management progress report for information purposes in accordance with the requirements of the Ontario Regulation 588-17, asset management planning for municipal infrastructure.
All in favor? Approved. Annie, next one is the DC reduction program.
Yes, so I know that Byron mentioned it a while ago in his presentation. So this program came along, partnership between the province and Canada for an $8.8 billion funding project over the next 10 years. There was a very short deadline to put in an application for this program, which is in just a couple of days at the end of the week, basically. What municipalities have to do is reduce their development charges by at least 30 to 50% or more than that. And you have to have shovel-ready projects and estimate them. You have to be able to do an estimate of the number of housing units that will benefit from the reduced DCs, what the amount of the reduction will provide, et cetera, et cetera. There's a whole bunch of criteria. We did have discussions about it in-house here. We did consult Watson, even the city of Pembroke, and see what everybody's doing. There are some advantages and disadvantages of it that were noted here, but our recommendation was to not apply for the grant. It's also a competitive grant, so it's not everybody that will get it, even if you apply. And it seems to be more for bigger municipalities or around the GTA. So that was our recommendation, was to not put in an application.
Okay, totally agree. Mover and seconder. Alan and Jennifer.
Moved by Councillor Wren, second by Councillor Gauthier, that the Corporate Service and Protection Committee recommends council receive the following report for information, and further that no application be submitted to the Development Charge Reduction Program at this time. It is also recommended a letter be sent to AMO and our local MPP and the province advising unacceptable timeframes in the event of a review and consider this program.
All in favor? Carried. Okay, Annie, your last item is my favorite word, is surplus. So
Yes, we want to spend money. Okay.
Let's talk about surplus.
Yes, so as you know, when our auditors came, they presented the financial statements and there was an operating surplus. That was $239,000. And we also have that piece of land that the township sold on Brewham Avenue for $126,000. So that totals a little over $365,000 that is available for different options, which we gave 3 here. One was to fund the plow truck that is being planned to purchase this year and was to be financed. So this would save the township, the taxpayers, this at least $40,000 in the interest cost. And you're funding a long-term asset with one-time funding that is available. Now, there would be that shortfall around $39,000, which I mentioned in here, that could come from the vehicle and equipment reserve. There was $80,000 budgeted from that reserve to go towards the fire rescue truck that was just purchased earlier this year. And that amount was not used, so it's still there. So that wouldn't impact the budget, the reserve. So it would reduce it, but we would even still have money left in that 80,000. Half of it would be still left that was not spent. The other option is to leave it in reserves, and you could choose from, it's in fixed assets right now, which was decided at the, whenever the auditors came. And, but it could go to levy stabilization, capital reinvestment, vehicles and equipment, or whichever you would suggest. And it could also be spent on other infrastructure like roads, culverts, drainage, some equipment that staff would like to have. So these are the three options we came up with. We do, after discussion, recommend the option one of funding the tandem plow truck. It seems to be the most financial, better financial decision, but it's up for discussion.
Alan?
I would agree that that's the proper option to go. The only thing I might add is we've already planned to have payments on that truck over, it's already in our budget. Would we just take the interest off of that and start paying on the next truck that's going to come? We've already planned to make those payments, so we're not going to be paying any interest. We're still going to save the $45,000, but start paying on the next truck, be it the next fire truck or the next tandem plow truck or whatever vehicle that's coming up. So then we're a year or two already ahead in the payments for that, something that's already in our budget. But I do agree that the best option is to take that money and put it towards that plow truck and save that kind of interest, 100%.
Council in agreement? Okay.
Mover and seconder.
Alan and Keith, I guess, you guys brought it up.
Moved by Councilor Wren, second by Reeve Watt, that the Corporate Services Protection Committee recommends council receive the following report regarding allocation options for 2025 operating surplus and the proceeds of the sale of Bruham property, and that council provides direction to one of the allocation options presented herein. So, allocation one, yeah, and option, what is it, option one? Yeah.
One now. All in favor? Carried. Okay, just information items. I did ask Laurie and Dean to put in the report from Taylor that, from the county we had last month on the trail. He did respond on June the 9th to me regarding his summary. I asked that you read through it. There are a couple of options that he spoke about that night. He was here, whether or not LV wanted to send a letter to the county requesting dirt bikes, et cetera, not to be on the trail. So if you want to think about that for next week's meeting, and if somebody wants to make a motion next week, we can do that. Also, when we asked about the OPP lane charges, he has said in his letter here that he has been in contact with the OPP to start the conversation with the idea of a contract. Unless council wants to make a motion tonight or have a discussion on it tonight, I know we're late in the agenda, so we could save it till next week if council wishes. So again, right now it's just information issue. Any comments tonight, Alan?
I'd have no problem putting a motion forward that Laurentian Valley asked the County of Renfrew to remove dirt bikes from the Algonquin Trail.
Okay. Jennifer and then Betty.
I'm just in favor of. Me too, seconding it.
You have to turn your mics on, please.
We're in favor of Al's motion.
Okay, so I have 2 seconders.
So what's the motion?
The Township of Laurentian Valley requests that the County of Renfrew remove dirt bikes, two-wheel dirt bikes, motorcycles from the Algonquin Trail.
What would the proper term be? It's not motorcycles.
I
it's,
guess they're off-road motorcycles?
two-wheel off-road vehicles?
Removal of off-road motorcycles from the trail.
Removal.
Can we just say motorcycles though? Because then they're gonna be like,
This
why
is
we
how
dirt
he,
bike?
this is how he words it,
Okay,
so that's, I'm kind of going by his. yes,
Off-road, sorry, what was that? Off-road?
Motorcycles.
Motorcycle.
Motorcycles, yes.
So has there been any correspondence with the ATV clubs just about etiquette on the trail? Because everything this past weekend, it wasn't all dirt bikes. Some of it was four-wheelers as well, and
Side-by-side.
basically taunting the residents. And, you know, this is just, you know, there needs to be a new culture from the club itself to say that this is unacceptable and this is not the etiquette that is appropriate on public trails. And they need to do some education and enforcement themselves to because, you know, it is, the dirt bikes are the worst, but the other ones are close behind.
So,
That'll be our next hurdle once we can get rid of these, right?
so we'll make a motion here, but I know it's late notice, but is there any chance we could call the ATV club tomorrow and ask if there's any possibility they can come to our council meeting next week? Is that pretty?
Well,
I know it's
try-
short notice,
Yeah,
but
it is kind of short notice. What do you want them to come?
just to
show
come
up
give
or-
us an update on their club, and then we can ask these questions. Because we're not gonna have another meeting till the rest is, till the end of July, so I don't know, we can ask. If not, whatever date we're picking in July, we'll ask them to come then, but.
Okay.
Okay, so I need a mover and a seconder. So I had Alan, and I had Jennifer and Betty. Jennifer.
Moved by Councilor Wren, second by Councilor Goche, the Township of Laurentian Valley requests County of Renfrew to remove off-road motorcycles from the Algonquin Trail.
All in favor? Oh, sorry, Keith, you have a
Just
comment.
an addendum to that. If that's going to be sent to county council, at least have some background as to why.
He heard it. He heard it, though.
Okay, this resolution is going to go.
Turn your mic-
Sorry. This resolution is going to go to the whole of the county, all county members, and they will make, I guess, the decision. It'll be presented, come up at a meeting, and the discussion take place, and they'll make a decision. So all I'm saying is that if we include some background information
Right.
to support this, I think it'd be better off.
So he's asking for a resolution. He's not asking for comments, but how about if we pass this resolution tonight, and then maybe we can do a write-up as a backup attachment or something?
How about we pass this resolution, then we ask Taylor, what is it you want to accompany that resolution to county council? What is it you want?
Okay,
What does
okay.
What does he need in order to get the resolution?
Because he has all the emails from residents. Okay. So
I
we'll
don't think he does.
follow it up with Taylor.
I think my impression I got, what he said, it basically, it needs to come from a municipality to county council to make that request. They made that decision without consulting any of the municipalities that the trail runs through. So now it's got to come from the municipalities back to the county to tell them they shouldn't have made that decision.
So what he does mention here, and I should have read it all, as stated in our meeting, if there's a desire for the removal of off-road motorcycles from the trail, your council could submit a resolution, or Reeve Rott could present a motion at Operations Committee. So I think you could make a motion at the Operations Committee, and then give you some background for it. Does that work?
Sure.
Okay. So do we vote on it yet?
Yeah.
Okay.
Is there any way of soliciting the other municipalities so that there's resolutions come from those municipalities as well?
Well, you could say, and this motion be circulated to other municipalities who have the Algonquin Trail.
Can we do that?
Yeah, we can do it.
You can circulate it to all the municipalities.
And maybe I'll call our neighbors.
Have we heard anything from the city at all on
Nothing.
anything like that?
Call city. When would this be typed up motion?
Wow, probably not towards the end of the week, maybe, I guess, eh?
When you have it done, Laurie, can you send it to me, and then I can send an email to some of the other municipalities and tell them that we've passed this, and we're gonna,
Looking for support.
our Reeve are gonna be making a presentation, and we're looking for support. Okay, perfect. Oh, I'm sorry, Betty.
The Trail Advisory Committee, what did that committee comprise of? Who comprised that committee?
So it was the director, I guess, of operations right now, Taylor, Peter Emo, Glenn Doncaster, who is the chair of operations, and myself, pretty well.
Was there any representation from any of the ATV or snowmobile clubs?
No, there was meetings with those other organizations apart from the committee.
I'd like to see that brought back into fruition.
Could we see where this motion goes? And if it's denied, then we can go down that road.
Because I,
So
Because
very
we are
much like to sit on that.
duplicating that committee in a way.
That's
The
right.
county is now, right? Because the other committee has more involvement, so you don't want that committee to go away and bring this one back, because you got the OPP, you got bylaw enforcement officers, as well as staff and county councilors. So we probably have to think about that a little bit more and see maybe where this goes.
One other item is, I don't know, we have our next county council meeting next Wednesday. So how much in advance they need to have that resolution presented to them?
Well,
I'm
they're
not
probably
sure.
not gonna bring it to county council, they're gonna send it through the committee, I'm sure. Probably go to operations.
Yeah, because you would present it to
Right.
committee, so when would your
Right.
next committee meeting be?
That'll be, well, I think we're committee of a whole. I'm not sure whether it's committee of a whole next meeting or not.
Should be council, it's the last one of the month.
Yeah, last one of the month, and then we don't meet through July.
Yeah, it's gonna be a while, but anyway, it's gonna go through the system.
So
It
it'll
doesn't
go
have to
through,
be done
yeah.
right
Okay,
away.
all right,
It's not gonna happen right away
no,
anyways.
all right.
Okay.
Okay, so there's other information items there. Mark, under business, collection of material, curbside waste, contract award.
Good evening, Mayor Bennett and members of council. Tonight, I do have my report for the award of the contract for collection of municipal curbside waste. The Township of Laurentian Valley, Town of Petawawa, and the City of Pembroke have contracted joint municipal collection services since the early 2000s. The three municipalities, as we often dub the partners, have been under the current waste collection contract with Miller Waste since 2015. The current waste collection contract has gone through some extensions, as council is aware, and is set to expire on March 31st, 2027. And the staff from the three municipalities have initiated an RFP process well in advance of that date to have a seamless transition and to prevent any potential disruptions in our services. The proposal was prepared and advertised on the three partner municipality websites and social media accounts on April 14th. 11 firms did request the RFP package, and submissions were received from three firms by the closing date. They were Miller Waste Systems Incorporated, and Emterra Environmental Service, or known as Halton Recycling Limited, and Environmental 360 Solutions Limited. The time frame for the RFP was outlined for advertising, timing for questions, issuing the addendum, closing dates and review, and that's there for council's information. The RFP was issued to invite qualified contractors to provide the services for the three partner municipalities. As part of the process, and similar to what we went through for the 2015 contract, we did a two-part envelope process where financials wouldn't be evaluated unless certain criteria was met by the submissions that were provided. And from our scoring sheet, the companies had to have a score of 53 or higher to be able to move on to the second round for the evaluation. The evaluation team did comprise of staff from the three municipalities, then reviewed by a group that was listed. Below there is a chart of the RFP scoring. Through the first round, both Miller Waste Systems and Emterra did qualify over the 53 points to open the financials, and following the review in the financials, it was found that Miller Waste was the highest rated through the evaluation scores. As Miller has our current waste collection contract and has been well over 10 years now, we didn't bother to check references, thinking that between the three partners, we were probably our best references on the services that they have provided to us. The RFP did allow for some discussions and negotiations, which we could still have if there was any changes that council wished. The new contract will begin on April 1st, 2027. The term this year will be, or this time will be 7 years, with 3 one-year options up to 10 years. Our current contract was 10 years with a couple one-year options. Part of that reasoning is the new provincial contract is also 7 years, so we're trying to keep in line with it on the chance that the province opts out, makes changes, wants something different, so we will be in line with that and not maybe having to break or change a contract when that moves forward. We will have a bylaw that will come forward to council at the next meeting once that's prepared, once we've been awarded. On the financial side of things, similar to other contracts, there is a CPI adjustment that is made annually, and that's how the current contract works. In addition, and it's something that we work through our addendum process, with the high rise of fuels, we did build in a monthly fuel price adjustment. So if fuel is low, when our bills come in, that'll be adjustment made monthly, and that's for life of the contract. And I think with how things have been so volatile lately with price of fuels, I think a lot of contracts will start going that way. That's a huge cost in asphalt and trucking and anything that we do deal with. So that is something that was new to this and something that we will look at in the future. The collection contract also includes the NES collection, that continued service, which we in 2015 didn't have, but with that change, we are still providing that service to our commercial ICI businesses. So for the cost, our 2026 collection rates that we've budgeted for both residential and the ICI is in the range of about $600,000 plus HST. The new contract for first year is estimated to be $900 and basically $83,000. So it is a substantial increase. So this will be part of our budget deliberation for 2027 on how we want to move forward with those prices. But it is a significant increase from where we are now for providing those continued services for what we have.
Yeah, I know Miller did have an error in their last contract. I guess they're making up for it this time around, making sure they don't miss anything, but it is a huge increase.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, it's going to be passed on to the taxpayer. Al?
Are we allowed to ask, Mark, there was one other bid that you did open the financials on what that bid was? Because they were rated?
Yes, yeah. Yeah, I can provide both. So Miller's bid price was $982,929.87. M-Terra was, and this is the Laurentian Valley prices, because all three were priced separately.
Yeah.
$1,349,636.41. And these are both those prices were including HST, just to confirm that. So.
Right.
And can I ask you why it says non-refundable GST?
Oh, should be probably mean
Refundable.
Refundable, yes, sorry.
Refundable,
yes.
but it does say including non-refundable GST, and I thought all our GST was
yes,
refundable.
yeah, that's a typo in the report, sorry.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions? Have a motion, Dean?
Yep.
Betty and Brian.
Moved by Councillor King, second by Councillor Ugly, that the Township Council awards request for proposal PW 11 2026 collection of municipal curbside waste to Miller Waste Systems Incorporated for municipalities' portion of contract in the amount of $982,929.87 plus HST for year one of April 1st, 2027 to March 31st, 2028 of a 7-year waste collection services contract.
All in favor? Okay. Thanks, Mark. Information item on the AOR's Post Trade Show.
Yeah, I think, I know we spoke
We
about
discussed it already.
briefly earlier, but just, I know Brad's not here, but Brad did take on the chairperson role for the provincial trade show. And I know it just kind of hats off to him for spearheading it. It was a massive undertaking, a couple years of planning, and the comments from the vendors and municipalities who were there were just amazed about the setup process, the teardown process, how quickly everything went, and We were advised by next year's trade show committee that they're in a lot of trouble for how seamlessly ours went and the expectations that they're going to have to provide to the residents and the patrons coming. So just, yeah, hats off to our group and especially Brad for
Absolutely.
what we did.
Absolutely. Okay, thanks, Mark. Trail Race Event Agreement, Nevada.
Good evening, Council. I'll make this short and sweet. The report before you is just to facilitate hosting one of the water and dirt events, one of the two that are being hosted in the township on Crown lands at the end of Forest Lee Road. It's our 4th year hosting this event, so we have to enter into an agreement with the province for permission to run the event. And that's what you have before you tonight, the agreement and the bylaw to pass the agreement.
Okay. Keith? Jennifer?
Moved by Reeve Watt, second by Councillor Gauthier, that council authorize the mayor and the CEO to enter into an agreement with the Crown represented by the Ministry of Natural Resources and Forestry to allow hosting of the event on Crown lands at Forest Lee Trails as part of the 2026 Water and Dirt Festival and forwards bylaw 2026-06-027 as presented to the bylaw portion of June 16th regular council meeting for passing.
All in favor? Carried. Council acknowledge, no, I'm sorry, bylaws. Al? Betty?
Moved by Councillor Wren, second by Councillor King, that the following bylaws be enacted and passed and be read a first, second, and third time, and be numbered and signed by the mayor and the clerk and sealed with seal of the corporation, and be engrossed in this bylaw book this 16th day of June 2026. Bylaw 2026-06-023, zoning bylaw amendment Z 2026-05 Gardner. Bylaw 2026-06-024, zoning bylaw amendment Z 2026-07 Laurentian Valley Grange, Mud Lake Road, B 3925, and bylaw 2026-06-027 to authorize agreement with MNRF for the use of Crown Lands Water and Dirt Festival.
All in favor? Carried. Good night. Council acknowledgements.
I just want to add that, as we know, there is a council meeting, special council meeting next Wednesday, June 24th, so asking that we convene then. And as well, there likely will be, you can just pencil in tentatively, probably July 29th. It's also a Wednesday night to further some planning issues and other items that may come up. So at this point, we haven't confirmed it, but I want to see if you can keep that date open, please.
Okay, motion going to closed. Keith and Brian?
Moved by Reeve Watt, second by Councillor Ugly, that the regular council meeting of June 16th move into closed session at 8:20, chaired by Mayor Bennett according to Ontario Municipal Act 2001, Section 239.2, Section 239.3, Section 239.3.1, in order to address a matter pertaining to a proposed pending acquisition or disposal of land by the municipality or local board.
All in favor? Carried. Okay, return to open session. Motion, Alan and Jennifer.
Moved by Counselor Ren, second by Counselor Gauthier, that the regular council meeting of June 16, 2026 move back into open session at 8:45.
All in favor? Carried. Note and file. Brian and Betty?
Moved by Counselor Ugly, second by Counselor King, that any item not specifically addressed by motion of council in the regular meeting of June 16 be noted and filed accordingly.
All in favor? Confirmatory bylaw. Keith? Betty?
Moved by Reeve Watt, second by Counselor King, that to be resolved that the Township, Council of Township of Laurentian Valley approves confirmatory bylaw 2026-06028 as having been introduced, read a first, second, and third time, and the said bylaw be numbered and signed by the mayor and the clerk and sealed with seal of corporation this 16th day of June 2026.
All in favor? Carried. Adjournment. Alan? Jennifer?
Moved by Counselor Ren, second by Counselor Gauthier, that the regular council meeting of June 16th, 2026 be adjourned at 8:50.
All in favor? Carried. Thank you.